dynamic.
Right?
We'll talk about it. But before we
We
get
will.
into it today, I want to mention that I'm feeling pretty anxious about people down in Southern California right now.
Right.
Tons of crazy fires, like the worst they've ever had, and just ripping through Palisades, Eaton, Hearst, Sunset area. A lot of people evacuating. I know some homes of friends of ours have burnt down.
Yeah.
I really hope that everyone's okay. I don't think a lot of people have been hurt, but there have been like 5 deaths,
Yeah.
but people losing their homes. And yesterday, Karen Shee, who was on last week, said
Yeah.
zones 1 through 5 in her town have been evacuated. She's in zone 6, and she said they've been lucky so far, but they have their bags packed in case they need to go.
That's
So
awful.
wish her the best. It's just awful. And I do want to remind people this kind of thing never used to happen, and it's related to climate change, and that we need to elect leaders who can help put policies into effect to help combat this. So I think it's the number one issue of our time. We need to
Mhm.
do something about it. If you want to help with these fires, you could donate to the Red Cross or the LA Fire Department. Karen gave me those two as two good places to donate, so I'll put links in the show notes.
Those firefighters are absolute legends. Like, I can't imagine what they're putting themselves through to keep people safe. And
Yeah, totally.
it's wild. And
Heroes.
it's nuts. Like, I was saying last week, I was up in the Arctic over Christmas, and it was too warm, man. It wasn't cold enough, and bits
Yeah,
that used to be permafrost are melting away. Like,
it's
it's a
heartbreaking.
scary time,
Hmm.
really scary. It shouldn't be like this, but we got to do what we got to do to try and get through it.
Yeah, yeah. We need to shift to sustainable energy. So I always vote for people who talk about that and
Mhm.
and want to try to enact policies that help with that kind of thing, because we need to save our planet.
Yeah, and we need to make it affordable for people to do that as well. It's
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, if you do that, if you shift to clean energy, you can build economy around that. And not doing it is going to cost us everything,
yep,
money and lives and our planet.
100%.
And just to add a little bit to the craziness before we get into it, I wanted to mention that my wife Jenny got bit.
I'm so sorry she got bit, man.
Yeah, she's okay, which is why I'm not crying right now. But I was just dozing off to sleep, and she ran into the room and said, Jason, you need to take me to the hospital. I was like, what the fuck? So I just sort of went on autopilot, but she was in a couple of blocks away from here, and she saw this zombie ambling down the street. No, I'm just kidding. She just didn't see anything. She was, I think, in her head, and I think she says she must have walked too close to a dog, and it jumped up and bit, and she could feel it going into her arm and her
Oh my
muscle and everything.
god.
It's so traumatic. Like, she's really tough about these kind of things.
What kind of dog was it?
She said she wasn't sure, but it seemed like some kind of a pit bull mix. Actually,
Yeah.
I think they did confirm that, which is, unfortunately, they have a reputation. But Jenny, she was sort of worried about what was going to happen to the
Yeah.
dog. We had to file something that would get submitted to animal control
Mhm.
as part of what's legally required. But the owners were great about it. They said they sent confirmation that the dog had its rabies shots, and they immediately paid all of Jenny's bills, and they
Oh
said that
wow,
this was the
okay.
first time the dog did anything like that.
That's
But
really
so Jenny,
responsible.
yeah, and I was like, oh man, if this dog does it again, then what are you going to say to those people? You're not going to be able to say it was the first time. So it's kind of
Yeah.
complicated. I know there's a lot of dog lovers out there, and I'm not saying any one way or the other, but it's just hard for everyone.
No, it's really hard. And like with dogs, Peter used to do a little bit of work on dangerous dog cases, and it was really
Mm,
upsetting because a lot of the time it was the owners rather than, well, almost all the time it was owners rather than dogs that were the problem, because a dog will only do what you teach it and what it learns, but they are still animals. They can still get defensive, and they
yeah.
they don't protect themselves in the same way cats do. Cats just run away and make themselves small. Dogs, yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. I hope he's okay, but I'm glad Jenny's okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we went to the hospital and she got the wound cleaned, and
Mhm.
I saw it. It looked pretty gnarly, and she got antibiotics and pain medication, and it didn't go into a nerve, or
Mhm.
it didn't tear any like critical muscle. She has full range of motion and everything, so I think it's going to be fine.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
wild. Well, we've got, I think, like 6 days till the full moon, so let me know how that goes.
I know. If I don't show up next week, you'll know
Yeah, I
I've
know.
been eaten.
Arrrrrrr. Ah, shit.
So that's fire and animal attacks. Let's get into plague.
Yes, let's do it.
Walking Dead season 4, episode 2, infected. You want to read the plot summary?
Yes, I do. A deadly flu outbreak spreads through the prison, killing people quickly and turning them into walkers. Chaos erupts as walkers overrun a cell block, forcing the group to fight for survival. Carol helps Lizzie and Mika cope with their father's death, but Lizzie's unsettling attitude toward walkers, viewing them as misunderstood rather than dangerous, begins to surface. Meanwhile, Rick sacrifices his pigs to lure walkers away from the collapsing fences, and the group discovers someone is secretly feeding walkers, adding to the growing threats.
Who could it be? I feel like,
Hmm.
did we have a pretty good idea at this time? I don't
I
remember.
feel like I did. I don't remember
Yeah,
what the podcast take was, but
I don't
I
remember.
I thought they laid it on pretty thick last week with the kids being at the
Yeah,
fence, so I feel like it was slightly intriguing, but I was like, I think it's going to
yeah.
end up being one of these kids.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, but I would guess that maybe I thought, well, it seems like it's her, so the only reason it wouldn't be her is because it's just so obvious,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, too obvious, but it did end up being her. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, I really like season 4, and this
Yeah.
one I enjoyed because in one of my favorite board games, Dead of Winter, the idea is that you have to keep your group alive through a zombie apocalypse, and a lot of it is like, let's say, a loving homage to things that happen in The Walking Dead. But one of the things I like about it is it's a very narrative driven game, and it's not necessarily the big things that will take you down. It's things like if you don't clean out the trash and people get sick, or if there's too many people for the resources. So, like, lots of little things can combine, and suddenly you're in lots of trouble. And I
Mm,
think this episode does a really good job of, it's not just one thing, it's not just the flu, it's also the fences, it's also Rick trying to build this farm, which is now going to fail because of the flu and because of the fences. And you've
hmm
also got the kids not understanding what's going on. You've got Carol being a live wire. That's a very nice way of putting homicidal women there. But yeah, it's a nice way of showing that even in the best kind of structured society, things can still fuck up and it can still really cost you. And given what we've been talking about pandemics and wildfires and
Yeah.
humanity, it hits different. It
And
hits different.
we've been talking about the community versus isolation.
Mm,
People really responded well to that. Right? By the way, we got some compliments for Karen bringing that in last week. But
yeah.
yeah, like there's complications with community that are making like this wouldn't be happening if there wasn't a big community. You know, the sickness
Mhm.
spreads, and what you said about Rick is interesting. I didn't even think about it, but they're thinking that the sickness came in through the pigs, which is
Yeah.
Rick's farming is about the pigs. So he
Your
kind of,
farming killed
it's your
everyone.
fault, Rick.
Well, they say about the Charlie who's locked himself in his cell. They say, oh, he was out last night eating barbecue. And I'm like, oh, is that a hint that that's where this flu has come from? Like, I don't know. I don't
Mm,
know. I think they leave it a bit ambiguous, but definitely
yeah,
there's cross-contamination with the animals and the humans.
yeah, yeah. I thought it was an amazing episode. It's interesting because last week, except for the whole big spot thing, which is bad, someone died, but there was a sense of
Life's
ease.
good. Yeah,
Yeah, life is good that you don't see in many Walking Dead episodes. This is one of the bleaker episodes, I feel like. If you
it
know, I
really
was
is.
enjoying it, but I if you let it really hit you, like at one point a woman walks by with I think carrying her dead child,
Yep.
and that's just in the background. It's
Yep.
bad.
It's
you
like
know.
things are a bummer. Like when they
Yeah.
ask Rick to explain what happened and he's sort of silent for a minute and then this woman walks out, I'm like, it's
Yeah.
not funny, but it is a little
No,
bit
I
funny.
mean it's
He's just
almost
like,
yeah, like
shit got bad, like
oh,
real
it's
bad.
bad. See that?
Like, it's
That's
not
like
great.
basically says it all.
It's not
And
good.
and it's also in times infuriating, but in the way that I love about The Walking Dead. So I think it's a fantastic episode.
Hmm.
All right, first point.
I mean, I don't have much more to add to this, but it was probably the first time I've really gotten into the storyline since the 2020 pandemic, ongoing. COVID's now
Mm-hmm.
part of our lives. And it was so interesting to watch and think about the first time I watched it back in like 2013 and how, I don't know, how dramatic it seemed and how not implausible because I think this episode does a good job of making it a plausible thing. It is a flu, it is going to pass quickly. I would argue that maybe this idea that you like go from being fine to coughing yourself to death in 6 hours it's a lot, but some diseases do that and we just don't know.
That's kind of why I thought last week that maybe it was like a zombie sickness because
It
then you
mutated.
could be like, oh, it's like not in our world. It's a zombie
Yeah.
thing, so it's worse. But they very clearly said that doctor said, no, this kind of thing happened before. It's not from the zombies. And I'm like, oh, Lucy
Yeah.
was right because he really. And then I looked it up, and it said like the 1918 Spanish flu, which killed millions of people, could go from no symptoms to death within hours. So
It's
this thing
wild, isn't
is
it?
plausible.
It is plausible, and I
Mm-hmm.
think looking at these ideas of like containment and how to keep people safe and how to keep people separated, this idea that some people who really should have gotten infected didn't, like they focus in a lot on Tyrese smooching Karen and
Mm-hmm.
Maggie and Glenn smooching as well. So obviously you're like, oh God, like Maggie and Tyrese are surely going to catch this, but we know they don't. So it's this kind of randomness of it, like who's
Mm,
immune, who's not immune. The worries about Judith, because I realized Judith's going to be a little unvaccinated baby. Like she's going to have very strange
I
immunity compared
know.
to what a regular kid of that age would
Didn't think about
have.
that. I
Yeah, it's
wonder, like,
wild.
I think, doesn't Herschel or somebody go get antibiotics and maybe
That's the
everyone
next
takes it? So,
the next storyline beat, I think, is a crew go out to try and
because I wouldn't
raid
be
a vet
surprised if
school.
everyone caught it, but
Yeah,
they just weren't symptomatic yet when the antibiotics came. Maybe. I don't
yeah.
know.
It's funny though because like I just think it seemed so out there in 2013 and now we're looking at it
Yeah.
with this hint of like, oh God, remember when that kicked off and remember when we were all scared.
Yeah. Many of us know people who died, you know?
Remember people who passed away, remember the
Yeah.
way we weren't able to contain it, remember how uncertain we were. Like I remember being an airport in Vancouver. We had like the weirdest start to the pandemic because we'd gone out to Vancouver to see a podcast show, not us, it was another podcast. And I remember saying to Peter on like the Wednesday, like, I feel irresponsible going. This was like early March 2020. And I've got a history of being a bit obsessive and compulsive about, germs and things. And Peter
Hmm.
was very patient. He was like, no, I think, it's nothing's, there were no lockdowns at this point. He's like, I think we're okay. I think we're gonna be fine. So we went. And then we got there on the Wednesday. Then by the time the show was supposed to go up on the Friday, everything had shut down. It was like people
It
were
happened
walking
so
around in
fast.
masks.
Yeah.
It was like the beginning of 28 Days Later. It was bananas. And then
Hmm.
we got back to our province and we were told you can't leave your house for 2 weeks because you've been out of province, which in Canada is like being out of country because the provinces are so huge. Um, and it was just this really sudden shift from like everything was normal to everything is dangerous. And I was thinking about that a lot watching this episode, how disease and germs, you can't see them. You don't know what it's like. You don't know how to understand it. And even in our very developed society, we didn't know how to handle a pandemic. And these people are working with no medicine, with no hospital infrastructure, with very basic hygiene facilities, like hot running water is probably something that they're not able to have. And I just thought that is so terrifying. And I think I find it scarier now than I did back then
Hmm.
because we've had a taste of how close to that it can and has come for some people. And then the rest of it, I think my first point is really just talking about the way that things sort of just landed on a second viewing in a completely different way. It really did just hit home that the system that we live our life in is very fragile. Things can fall apart really easily. The things we rely on, the things that we expect to get delivered every day, the things that we, like you were saying, Jenny going to the hospital to treat a dog bite. Like, great. She was
Yeah.
able to do that.
Cleaned it out, got antibiotics. Yeah.
Cleaned it out, got
Not for that,
antibiotics. Brilliant.
could be gone.
Yeah, 100 years ago, she might be dead because,
Hmm.
the disease, that's how it spreads. So, yeah, I think I got more anxious watching it this time, thinking about what we'd all been through and what people are continuing to go through.
Hmm. And next week, I mean, we're really going to see them going through it because a lot of people catch it. I
Yeah.
remember this episode, and Herschel's there trying to tend to everyone while he starts having symptoms too. And
Oh, what a
just, you're
hero
afraid
Herschel
they're
is.
all just going to die.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
scary. It's so scary. I mean, I did laugh that they have really bulked up the prison with quite a lot of red shirts. Like at one point I was like,
I
there are
know.
so many people in this prison.
Well, they're
Don't they all
like,
die?
they came to this thing last, I think the natural conclusion to last season, like, let's have Rick decide that instead of leaving people on the side of the road, he really wants to bring people in. They brought a bunch of people in, and now they're like, I almost feel like during the break in between, they're like, we got all these people now. What are we going to do?
Murder them,
Wow,
murder
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Because they all get on okay, yeah, we're getting into later episodes, but yeah, I am like, I don't think anyone really survives.
No, I feel like
Um,
from Woodbury, it's only
Sasha and Tyrese.
they're not even really from Woodbury. I think it's
No,
no one. Bob's not from Woodbury.
no,
Nobody.
no. Yeah, it sucks. So that's my kind of bleak philosophical point about this being an interesting watch post 2020.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wonder if listeners have thoughts about that too. I hope you guys,
Oh,
if
they
you have
must
thoughts
do.
about it as it relates to the pandemic, be interested to hear.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about Lizzie.
Oh, Lizzie.
Lizzie's a great character in
She's
this
so
show.
good. Brighton
And
Sharbino as well is
yes,
fantastic. She's
she's
really
very
good.
good. Yes, for a little girl. I mean, for anyone, but just
Yeah.
impressive that a girl can do so well at a role like this, a young
Yeah.
person. Um, I think the implication, because there's a couple of mysteries set up this week that we know for sure the answers to now: who's feeding the zombies and who killed Karen and David. And I think the implication is that Lizzie feeding rats to them drew more in, which is why
Yeah.
the fence is giving, I think. So it's
I
kind of
think it didn't help.
didn't
Again, it's a
help. Yeah.
cluster. It's a
Yeah,
clusterfuck
it's true.
because they also get drawn by the sound of the gunshots
Right.
and the activity at the prison. But yeah, them being there already is not good.
Yeah. Um, Later, and Karen sees, I think probably Lizzie's drawing of kids at the fence, and Zed's on the other side with one labeled Nick.
And Karen's like, "Ah," and I'm like, no,
Hmm.
weird.
Then when zombies, the zombie breakout happens in the prison with all hell breaking loose, and I totally forgot that Lizzie and Mika's father Ryan got bitten in this attack.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember them having a parent aside from Carol. And him just laying there saying, "It's happening, isn't it?" is so
Oh, it's so
zombie
bleak.
delicious. Like, oh
I
no.
know. And
Poor
that
guy.
moment where Carol's like, it's okay, we're going to amputate. And then it's like, oh
Oh
no,
crap. Yeah.
not
And
good.
then he asks Carol to look out for Lizzie and Mika like they're hers, and she says yes immediately, which we know is a big deal for her given that she lost a child.
Yeah.
And we know how it's going to end up too. So it just, you feel the tragedy in it. Then Carol brings them in to say goodbye, and he just dies right there. And she just sort of calmly says, I have to do what we're always supposed to do. You can wait outside if you want. And she's sort of trying to normalize this, I think, and even encourage them to stay there so they can inure themselves to it, And
Yeah.
I think at this point, it's pretty clear already that there's something wrong with Lizzie or something up with her, but we didn't know the extent of it. We knew that she was that she saw zombies as normal, but we didn't know that she would keep having these close calls with walkers because she'd try to be friendly with them, like the one on the train tracks later on, that she'd keep getting pissed off whenever anyone killed one. And worst of all, that she would kill her sister just to prove that walkers are no different, and that she would have killed baby Judith. That's what she was about to do. Knowing all that, I think we see this all in a different light. Like, oh my God, we're on the road to tragedy here.
And also seeing that she's not, what is it Mika says about her? She's not weak.
She's not weak. She's messed up.
She's messed up. Yeah. As a kid would be. Like, I don't say that in a like, ew, messed up kid way. Like, yeah, I think there would be a lot of messed up kids in the apocalypse.
Absolutely.
Like, this has unleashed something in her. And we see Carl struggle with that.
You wonder, like, well, I'm sort of going to address what I think her troubles are here. Let's see. I mean, I was surprised that she said she wanted to be the one to finish off her father so he wouldn't turn, because I know where her story goes. She says, you taught us to Carol, I can do it. You wouldn't expect her to want to. You'd expect her to argue to let him be. And after, it's okay, he'll turn and we'll still be friends with him. But maybe she hasn't fully formulated her ideas about all this yet. And then she does panic and can't do it. So Carol moves in to do it. And then Mika pulls Lizzie away as she's panicking. And Mika says, it's okay, breathe, count 1, 2, 3, look at the flowers, Lizzie. So I think that means because Mika knows what to do here, that Lizzie's already had some problems with emotional dysregulation.
Yes.
Where you have trouble managing your emotions. And so people come in with strategies on how to do it. It's common in children.
And you know what? Really healthy thing for kids to know how to do. I'm always very impressed when a kid knows what they need to do. I'm like, okay, I was never taught that.
I mean, I could use some of this. I, as an adult, seriously, sometimes, and
it's incredible.
Get really angry. And Bodhi, he has some of that too, my son, where he'll just get really spun out on something and it's hard to talk to him, and I might start telling him to look at the flowers. I don't know, but not in that way.
Don't watch The Walking Dead with him at a later date, though, because he'll be like, what the fuck?
But I was reading about it. Deep breathing slows the heart rate, calms the body, activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is when the body's at rest. It's the opposite of the fight or flight response. Counting and looking at flowers shifts focus away from whatever the source of distress is and gives your brain something to be engaged with. So it's teaching her to pause, reflect, respond more calmly over time. So in that context, Carol later telling Lizzie to look at the flowers in the grove makes some dark, twisted sense, because she's shifting her focus away from the source of distress, which would be a gun. But it's really sad. And then, and so I do wonder if her beliefs about that Zeds are normal got strengthened and deepened in reaction to Carol knifing her dad in front of her, a traumatic thing. But it was really chilling at the fence later when we think Lizzie's upset about her dad, but it turns out she's upset about that someone killed Nick the zombie. That the feeling I got from that is, what is wrong with you? Right? Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to feel that way. And it goes beyond emotional dysregulation. That's when Mika says she's messed up. She's not weak. I was thinking about it. Maybe this is just speculation. It could be related to not being able to manage her emotions, because if she has a really strong aversion to dealing with negative emotions and harsh realities of the ZA, that maybe she buries those by delusionally seeing the walkers as friendly, so she won't have to deal with the horror of the truth of it. It's a delusional coping mechanism. And I think in our world, you could have trauma therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy in some kind of a safe, structured environment, but they don't have any of those resources in the zombie apocalypse. And I'm curious if anyone is a professional listening to me talk about this, if you have insight or thoughts about it, we'd love to hear about it.
I really would. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Because I would want to see her get help, not be killed, but we'll get to it in the Grove, but I could understand why Carol did what she did in that case. unlike some of the things she does in this episode.
Oh boy. Yeah. Angela Kang wrote this episode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, good job, Angela Kang. I always like when we see like,
Mm-hmm.
people who go on to have different roles in the show, and that to me this is kind of the Gimple golden era, so it's nice to see that
Oh,
there's
yeah.
some Angela Kang in there as well.
I always like to point out, Gimple really ushered Walking Dead into its when it became a phenomenon. He steered
really
it through
did.
that. Yeah, and then he steered it
Yeah.
right to the ground, but
Yeah, and then he, as with so many people, stayed a bit too long
Yeah.
and didn't give it over when he maybe should have.
Mhm.
I thought that the zombie gore in this episode was really cool. There was some good
Yes.
detail gore. Highlights
Gross.
for me include, I thought Patrick was a really creepy looking zombie.
Yes, and the way he moved was awesome too, the
Oh, he was
actor.
great.
So good.
I sometimes wonder, do they cast these people zombies first, actors later, or do they go
Right.
for the actor and then hope
The
they can be a
contrast was
zombie?
great with him because, as you pointed out, I think last week, he's such a cute kid, right? Almost
Oh,
like
he's
a
such a
little
cute kid,
Harry
and then he
Potter.
becomes this like little demon.
Yeah.
One suspension of disbelief: can zombies climb stairs?
If the writers need them to.
Okay, because I think Patrick ends up upstairs, and Daryl's like, "It's Patrick," and I'm like, "Huh? What? How'd you climb up the stairs? I thought it's the bath." Anyway, it might just be me being wrong.
Well, in early Walking Dead, we see them climbing fences, But maybe that was retcon that those were variants. I don't know. But
Maybe
those
I'm thinking of Doctor Who and Daleks. I'm like, Daleks can't climb
Daleks,
stairs.
no, they
Zombies
can float,
can. Daleks can't.
if we see any hovering zombies and they say exterminate, then we'll know.
Then we'll know.
Something's wrong.
So Patrick, all in all, fantastic zombie. I really loved. There were three detailed bits of gore I thought were great. Number one, Patrick eating the guy's jugular. That was gross.
Ooh.
Proper.
The guy should have flailed around a little. He just woke up and was like, "Oh, this seems
But I think
wrong."
he got him right in the windpipe. So would he
Okay.
have? Oh, it was because I was like, "Oh, he's
was
going to yell,"
gross.
and then I'm like, "Oh, no, he's not." Then eating the guy's stomach, but not enough, so that when he stood up, his intestines fell out. That's
Yes,
horrible.
it was
I
great
love it.
because he's sitting there eating him, and then he gets distracted by some noise and wanders off.
As
and
I
then
do
right
sometimes.
then the guy reanimates and
It's so
kind
good.
of falls off or rolls off his cot, and his guts fall out. And he's like, "Meh." So gross.
I mean, I've had hangovers that felt like that, but like I
Yeah.
don't think it actually happened.
I feel like my brain's gonna fall out, or I wish it would.
Oh, and you're just like, no. And the final one was the zombies at the fence. The eyeball squish was gross. There's like a
Mhm.
zombie gets squished up against the thing and its eye starts bugging out and it's horrible. So those are my three gore highlights. But something I meant to mention in my first point about how everything kind of compounds. It was interesting that Patrick, I mean, the thing that I didn't mention in all of this is that they also have this zombie outbreak because Patrick dies of the flu. And the other thing that's interesting is he's following Karen, but the reason Karen isn't bitten is because he's distracted by somebody coughing. So the flu has all these multifaceted effects. It kills Patrick. It distracts him from eating one person and takes him to eat another. Someone upstairs has already died just because of the flu and only just happened to shut himself in. It's so clever how all these things are coming together. And I think they rendered the kind of viscera of the zombies really, really well.
Mhm.
I will say I could not watch the pig stuff
I know,
the second
yeah.
time. I fast
Yeah.
forward. I was like, I can't watch it. It's too sad. It's too sad. I can't do it. These little piggies. Oh, Violet and her family. R.I.P.
Yeah. Yeah. Too bad.
It's
It
so
was the
sad.
pigs or the humans.
I know,
so-
but they're piggies.
I know.
They're meant to
I
be
mean,
smart as
honestly,
well. Oh.
it's like, okay, Rick, you stepped up, probably saved everyone's life once again,
Yeah.
at least for the time being. But remember last week when they were talking about a boombox or something at the big spot? Like,
Yeah.
where's that? What happened to the boombox?
Rick's so dramatic. He's like, "No, I must slay all of the pigs," and they're like, "No, it's fine. We
Here's
can
this
just
boom
make
box. No, no,
noise."
no, no, no.
No, 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 no. I'm gonna do it now. He's such an emo. You're just like, right, okay. And then he's like burning his shirt at the end, like, ah. And I was like, right,
No, I'll get
okay,
to my thoughts on that. But
yeah.
I agree. I mean, this episode had some great zombie stuff, and when I watch it, I still remember, oh yeah, this is why I even wanted to start watching this show in the first place, because I like this zombie horror, and this is my favorite kind, where it's in an enclosed space with darkness, like even with Karen walking around in the shower
Oh, that was
area.
fun.
And, yeah, and
That was
it's really
slasher film.
creepy, and she walks away, and then you see Patrick
Yeah.
ambling around in there. And you mentioned that Angela Kang wrote it, which I think makes sense, because I remember when she came in as showrunner on seasons 9 and 10, there was more of a focus on horror. And then I got to talk to her about it when I interviewed her, and she says, yeah, she loves horror. So it makes sense that she wrote this one. I'm sure she had a fun time writing all those scenes.
Me too. I'm going to see Nosferatu tomorrow. So
Oh
I'm like,
yeah, I want to see
horror.
that. I've
I
heard it's
haven't,
good.
yeah, I'm intrigued to see it. Peter was like, I'm picking the film. We're going to see Nosferatu. I'm like, okay.
It
So
looks
yeah, I'll let you know how it
cool.
goes. Yeah.
Okay, my next point is called Carol. Grr. Which I feel pretty triggered by her in this. Her heart is in the right place. I have to remind myself she wants to protect
hmm
everyone, but she's handling things from a place of hurt and severe trauma, which I
hmm
think a lot of people are in this situation. But she's making these decisions that really impact other people's lives, sometimes ending them without any buy-in from other people. You could say the same thing about Rick sometimes, but it
Yeah.
feels worse when it's about kids and also just killing innocent people, sick people. I don't like how she talks to kids, for one thing.
She's very manipulative. She tries it with Carl. It's quite funny because Carl
Yeah.
doesn't really take her up on it.
Yeah.
But that made me really uncomfortable because I was like,
Sitting there just saying, don't tell your dad. That's awful. And then I was so
yeah.
proud of Carl for telling his dad,
hmm
and then his dad said, you did the right thing by telling me. Let's not tell anyone else. I'm like, you're
Yeah.
not really modeling good behavior there, Rick. It was like, I mean, I on my Carl's the same as me. He's like, I think we should be training these kids, but we should tell their parents. And
hmm
Rick's like, yeah, let's just let her keep going on with it. Seems fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But first, though, when she's talking, Lizzie fails to kill her own father to prevent reanimation. And Carol says, Lizzie, we're going to have to talk about what happened in there. Your daddy asked me to protect you like you're my own, and I will. It's time someone told you the truth. Honey, you're weak. You lost your nerve. You have to trust your gut, and you have to act fast every time. That's life and death. If you want to live, you have to become strong. And this reminds me of the speech that Carol gave to little Sam later about the
Yeah.
monsters in the woods. And
Oh, yeah.
it's her heart's in the right place. She wants Lizzie to be able to protect herself like Sophia couldn't. But telling her she's weak, I have a real strong aversion to shaming kids to get what you want.
hmm
Especially you're weak because you couldn't stab your own father in the head. I don't like it. I, I think if you're going to shame somebody like that, a lot of times they don't feel empowered. They feel you can't be your best self if
No.
you're ashamed of yourself. I would say something like, I know that was hard, but you're brave for even trying. We're living in this world now where we have to do hard things to survive. And that means you have to act even when it's hard. So we will practice and build strength together. So when you need to, you can protect yourself. And then I just pictured Carol training Lizzie to kill walkers like Daryl was training Laurent in the Daryl show,
hmm
he did it the right way.
Yeah, he did.
Carol, so then she gives Lizzie a knife, and I'm like, is she ready for that? And I'm sure that's the knife she'll use later to kill her sister.
After Carol's cleaned it off from Karen and David, presumably. Like, geez, oh.
Right, right. Framing the little kid. So then dealing with the sickness, Tyrese finds Karen, and we later learn David. I guess so. She knifed them and dragged them away. He sees
I
a
assume so because there was blood.
trail of blood. Yeah.
Either that or Peter said something pretty gross about Karen being on her period, which was pretty disgusting, but also
Oh
quite
my
funny.
God,
I
Peter,
know,
gosh.
lowering the tone.
He's
Everyone
always
thinks
saying
he's the
stuff like
nice
that.
one, and then he said that gross thing. But yeah, I assume she knifed them in their sleep and then took them out and burned them for,
Yeah. Or
it.
maybe they were just coughing up blood from the sickness.
Yeah, but why would it be being dragged along the ground that way?
Stop it. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Leave me alone, Carol. Why?
Why?
So I was watching to see, what led her to this. I'm a little confused. We know Karen and David were the only ones showing symptoms at this point.
Mm.
And at the council meeting, they're talking about the sickness. And it seemed like Carol was on board with quarantining. She said, Patrick was fine yesterday and he died overnight. 2 people died that quick. We'll have to separate everyone that's been exposed, which is quarantining, which is what they were doing with Karen and David. But then Herschel and Daryl pretty much say everyone's been exposed. So I'm not sure how that leads Carol to think she should kill the people showing symptoms. Karen is coughing and she says David was coughing too. A little later, Carol tells Daryl she's worried about Lizzie and Mika because they were around Patrick. And Daryl said, well, we all were. And Karen and David will be separated until they feel better. So again, I'm not sure how Carol took from that conversation that people showing symptoms should be killed. And it didn't even work because next week, of course not. A bunch of people get more sick next week. A bunch more people get sick. And if everyone who gets it dies within a day, which no guarantees they do, but maybe because that's what happened to Patrick, then nature would have taken care of Karen and David anyway. So Carol really didn't need to do that. I think it's unforgivable still. I was wondering, sometimes we come back to the rewatch and see things in a new light, but I just think it's insane. I think it's the worst thing Carol's done. And if there's anyone saying, shut up, Jason, Carol's the best, then I would ask yourself, what if Carol was the one who got sick and Karen killed her? Would you be standing up for Karen,
Shut up,
I
Jason.
just,
Carol's the best.
I don't like it. I don't
It's
like
it's
it.
definitely a bad thing that she does here.
It's
Like
crazy. It's murder.
It's
I mean,
murder.
it's really dark.
It's
Gosh.
really dark, and you can see the logic for it forming in her head in this episode, where she's like thinking about containment and.
I don't get it though. I tried to look through the dialogue and understand because it was confusing at the council. They were talking about who's been exposed and how you have to keep some people away from the kids or something, but then they seem to say they've all been exposed. And so somehow Carol took away from all that. Well, if you have symptoms, then we should just kill you. It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense to me, really.
I think it's a very extreme response to to
You'd
something.
hope she would have some clear thinking about it if she was going to go to those lengths.
You really would, but I think sometimes when we panic, we don't. This is a very bad example of when we panic, we don't think things through.
Yeah, I mean, if it was me, I would totally be on board with what Rick did, which was banishing her, and then we know that she gets to come back in the group because she saves everyone at Terminus.
Mm.
And I don't know, man. Even then, I'd be like, thanks, see ya.
Oh no,
You
I would.
I'd at least put her on probation of some kind. I know that sounds like, if you're like a Carol fan, you're like, screw you, Jason. But
No, but
after
if
you murder
just...
2 people in the group, you don't get to just come back and be trusted. You have to earn the trust.
But what if she handed you your beautiful baby that you thought you'd lost?
I'd be like, thank you, bye.
I'd be like, thank you, you're on probation. I'd be like,
you gotta earn trust. Come on. I mean, that's what we're talking about in the ZA. People are quick to say, oh yeah, this person's sketchy, kill them if we don't know them. But if we do know them and we've come to feel connected, then it's like, oh yeah, just let them get away with whatever. Negan's the best,
But don't you think,
like,
and I agree with you on Negan. This is just me being pedantic, I guess.
Right?
Don't you think that that is how we survive and exist, is because we do prioritize people that we know and love and are close to. Like, we empathize with other people, in my mind, to be a good person, you do think about everyone as much as you can, and you do think about people who you're not directly connected to. And I think a lot of the problems with the world right now are people not thinking about the other people that they don't know. But is it not human
Mhm.
nature that we do prefer the people that we're connected to and we do make decisions based on that instinct to protect them?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's the impulse that, like, I probably told this story before, but when we did our live podcast after the episode where Rick banishes Carol, and I said I think he did the right thing, and people booed, and I said, well, what if Glenn had been the one that was sick and Carol killed Glenn, and they just went, that's different. And I think that's the impulse. Like, they care about the people they care about, and so they will give them allowances. And I would probably do that too. Let's say Jenny did that to somebody, I would stand by her. But I just think, to be smart, that you can't let yourself be blind to something this serious, where Carol could hurt someone else. So there would have to be, like, if it was a stranger, they would just be banished and never allowed back. It's Carol, our friend. So that's why I'm saying probation. Like, she needs to prove that she won't do something like that again,
Mm.
because that's important too. I mean, lives are at stake, and Carol does do some things later on that cost more people their lives. I don't know. I'm just sort of saying this as I'm sitting here thinking about it, but I'm glad you brought it up, because it's what you said is
It's
important.
true, but I mean, I think you're right. I think that what she does is morally reprehensible, and if it was the real world and someone did that, you would never forgive them. It would never be something you could countenance. But it's difficult because I do think even in our own lives, what wouldn't you do to protect your family? What wouldn't you do to protect the people that you love? And it's easy for us as viewers to sit back and be like, well, that's dumb, but or that's cruel, or that because it is dumb and it is cruel.
It's ineffective. I mean,
So what
there's
Jason's
the
saying is, I
idea
would have
of
killed everyone.
what, I mean, I'm saying, like, yes, there's what would you do to protect the people you love, but when you could just quarantine people, but you just murder them instead, then
Mm,
it's like insane. I think, like, no, you just
yeah,
murdered people that you just should have left them in their own wing, or whatever. It doesn't make
yeah,
any sense to me.
no.
I don't
I think
know.
we see with this and the way she is with Lizzie that Carol's just not balanced. She's not a balanced, and she, as we've said repeatedly,
Yeah.
she is reckless and she does do rash things that are
Yeah.
not well thought through and are often cruel, and that is a very disturbing quality to have as a person.
I mean, she's one of my favorite characters on The Walking Dead, and I've mentioned this a bunch of times, but I look at characters sort of how good they are for the story, which doesn't mean I need to like them. How interesting they are to watch. Carol's so interesting, especially because of the way Melissa McBride played her. And
Mm.
then, sort of on a personal level, if this was the real world, how would I judge them morally, and would I want to spend time around them? And the thing is, with Carol, I think I would want to spend time around her up until now, but after this happened, I think I would feel differently about her.
Yeah,
And then later on, she does a lot of things that I think are great too, but it's just hard to get over this.
yeah. She'd fit in Yellow Jackets, I think. Carol would do
Yeah.
well. She'd do well on that team.
Yes. Right on that show. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. She's like, they made that show with a bunch of Carols.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I could keep
um,
talking about this forever, but we should probably move on. What do you got?
yeah, what have I got? Well, we've spoken about Carol and Coral. I'm glad you brought it up because Carol and Coral is not the easiest thing to say. I did laugh when Carl was making the crucifixes and Carol walked in, and I thought, is she going to tell him to make an extra two? Like, for no reason. Just like, oh, you're making crucifixes for the graves. Cool. Do you want to make another two? No reason. Other people might die. Um,
Just to have a few extra,
just a
just
few
because.
extra, just in case. You never know. I had
You know how it
forgotten.
is around here.
Yeah, you can never have too many. And if you just put a little K on one of them and a D, I don't know, just no reason. No reason. Um, I enjoyed Michonne's moment with Judith because I forgot that it happened in
Oh,
this
yeah.
episode.
So
And it's
good.
so powerful now, knowing especially where they end up and the relationship that the two of
Yeah.
them have.
She's her little Shoto.
And I forgot how understated it is. It's not a big, like, oh my
Hmm.
God, you remind me of my son and now I'm healed. It's just a little cuddle. And holding
Yes.
babies is so therapeutic when they're not screaming. I
I mean, just watching that.
oh,
She's
so
holding her at
sweet.
arm's length, not looking at her,
Uh-huh.
first saying, no, I don't want, okay, fine.
Yeah.
And then you see her, that emotional barrier crack, and Denigro is so good, and then holds her close, and you're like, all right, she lost a child. No
Mhm.
words
No
needed.
words needed. We all
Beautiful.
got that just from that moment. And then later in the
Yeah.
season where she talks about Andre to Carl feels really well
Yeah.
earned for that moment. And it explains so much about the barriers Michonne has had up. And I just
How
loved
would this
it.
scene have gone if it was on Fear the Walking Dead?
I mean, did he been hanging off the side of a building while Colm and Domingo threw rocks at them or something? Like, I don't know. While speaking in a Spanish accent, my name is Hernando, and like throwing things at them, like,
And
Jesus.
Michonne would have been like, you're activating my trauma because I lost a child. Or something.
Oh my God. But she got her little Shoto. It's so cute. And it's quite fun.
Yeah.
Two of my friends recently had their second baby, and I got to spend a few hours at Christmas just holding a very, very tiny baby. It was very peaceful. They don't do much at
Was
that
it the
age.
same scene where you said no at
Yeah,
first?
I went, no, and held the baby away from me, screaming. And they're like, no, you have to hold her. And I was like, okay. Um,
Then you started crying.
I did. I started crying and going, "This has healed me." But no, they're cute when they're newborn. They don't really do anything. They just sort of snuffle and sleep, and it's great. It's very peaceful.
They
Um,
smell good.
yeah, they smell good as well.
Mhm.
They fart really loudly though. That surprised me. I was like, "Whoa, that's like adult sized." This led me on to thinking a little bit about the ones who live, because there's a couple of things in this episode that shout forward a little bit to the ones who live. One is Rick at the fence, because obviously in the ones who live, he wins. You know, he's the person who's killed the most zombies at the fence because he's weirdly good at it. Turns out
Mm,
he got a lot of practice at the prison, so that makes
mm.
sense, as did
I forgot
Michonne,
about that.
presumably. We
Mhm.
have the Judith and Michonne moment, which is just really, really beautiful. We also have just the dynamic of Carl and Michonne and Rick at their happiest, kind of talking shit about stale M&Ms and picking up comic books, and this kind of
Mhm.
banter that they have that is just so easy and so enjoyable. Something I found interesting was I've become a little bit obsessed with this idea of Rick having grown up on a farm where someone burned everything down to make the crops grow again. Um, I was like, is there a reading of this episode where he's thinking about that while he's slaughtering the pigs and setting the fire? Is it just the case that he doesn't mention it verbally? Like, I enjoyed looking at it with a reading of, okay, let's go with it. Let's say that he does have this experience in his past. He does know what
Yeah.
it is to burn a place to the ground, and he does know what the sacrifices are that have to be made.
Maybe slaughtered some pigs.
Yeah, and it deepened my appreciation of both the ones who live in this episode in quite a nice way. So I'm enjoying kind of looking forward to what's coming up and thinking about how these things all tie in together. And I thought it was very sweet that Carl picked up the gun for Michonne to save her.
Hmm.
Um
Not believable she would need it, but
no,
you have to
she did
suspend our
trip
belief.
over. Um
Yeah. She doesn't
I
trip.
She doesn't trip. She did trip though over that rope.
She did, yeah.
I think Carl and Rick's dynamic within that as well of Michonne asks Carl why he wasn't wearing his hat, and he says it's not a farming hat. And you get the sense in this episode really strongly that Rick's turned towards being a peaceful farmer who has plans with cucumbers and makes mulch and all that stuff is actually more about Carl than it is about him in some ways. He's
Hmm.
very worried about what Herschel told him last season about Carl shooting that boy, and it's about the two of them having this peaceful way of life. And we see in this episode that's not sustainable. You know, by the end of it, they're both armed again.
Yeah. And I think
Uh,
that's why they didn't do the boombox route, because Rick is sort of hiding away from anything violent. Like you said, he's all or nothing.
yeah.
And Carl is trying to be a good son and follow him there, and I think he has been impacted by this, but he also recognizes that there's an in between, that they need to protect themselves. And so I think they did the pig thing to kind of show that Rick can't escape the violence.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
it's a violent solution to the problem.
and Andrew Lincoln plays that scene amazingly. The look of kind of despair on his face and the way that he's covered in this disgusting blood and the grief that he's feeling during it. I'm just like, oh, this is
Yeah.